everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the One Life Podcast. I am your host, Devin Rodriguez, and I thank you so much for being here today with me as this kicks off something special. So in the past, when I've done solo episodes, it really hasn't been too structured, if I'm being honest with you. But going forward, each month is going to have a specific topic, and I'm going to be making 4 videos in a month on that specific topic. And the topic for this month is something that I am most passionate about. And the title of the month is The Power of the Story Within You. The power of the story within you. So we're going to kick off this episode right now with part 1 of this series. And part 1 is going to be entitled, Why Your Story is Important. You see, throughout college, I was always told to listen to the story of somebody else. And for good reason, don't get me wrong. When I would go out and perform service, it's important to show other people that you are willing to listen to their story. You listen to your friends' stories, you hear the stories that your professors tell you, your teachers tell you, your coworkers tell you, your parents tell you. You're listening to stories all of the time. But the trouble that we run into is that we seldom stop and listen to the story that we're telling ourselves about who we are. Think about that for a minute. Have you ever stopped? Have you ever had a conversation with one of your friends and they asked you, hey man, hey girl, what is the story that you're telling yourself about who you are? And how does that impact what you get in life? So this is the topic of discussion for today. And when we talk about the story that you're telling yourself about who you are, if you want to coin a psychological term to it, it's called self-image psychology. And this was predominantly brought about in the 1960s by an author and a doctor, he was actually a plastic surgeon, named Maxwell Maltz. And what Maxwell Maltz came to find was that as he performed surgery on reconstructing people's noses, their faces, all different parts of their body, while some of his patients felt totally different once they had this surgery done to them, what he noticed was there was a tremendous amount of people who, even despite after getting surgery, did not feel any better about themselves. In fact, many of the people that he performed surgeries on felt as if they still had the deformity that they had prior to the surgery, although it was clearly gone. And what Maxwell Maltz found was that it wasn't the physical deformity that was the problem, it was the internal void that was the real issue. The thing that he noticed was that self-image psychology, the ability to look within and analyze the movie that's going on in your life, Maxwell Maltz said was the greatest psychological discovery of the 20th century. And there's countless other authors who agree with him. So let's dive into this a little bit today as we discover the power of the story within you. And my goal with this story is for you to know that you do not have to merely be a ghostwriter in your story, but you could be the author. And as we go forward, you'll notice that there's a big difference. But before we go into all of that, if you don't have a solid foundation for your house, it's eventually going to fall over. And similarly, if you do not have a solid foundation for your life, it is eventually going to fall apart and crumble down. Now, what I want you to do here is I want you to simply close your eyes for a minute. If you're driving, you better not close your eyes. But if you are not driving, please close your eyes. And I want you to envision that you are in a movie theater. You got your popcorn, you got your big soda or your slushie, you got your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your parents, everybody is around you, and you're at the movie theater and you're attending a movie, and how the movie theater marketed it to you was that it was a mystery movie, but they guaranteed that it would be an interesting movie. So you said, let's go to the movies and I'm gonna go check this out. So you're there, you're sitting there and you're excited, and as soon as the screen comes on, the movie theater decides to start playing a movie of your life. Now I want you to stop and think for a second. Do you like what you see on the screen? You see, there was once a woman who ordered a book from Amazon, and the book from Amazon simply said memoir, a book about my life. But what she noticed was that the author title just said anonymous. So she ordered the book, she got it, and she was excited to read it as it came 2 days later on Amazon Prime, as always. And she grabs it, she reads it, and it was about 50 pages long. And as she comes to the last page, she starts to tremble in fear because she notices that the book that she was reading wasn't the book about somebody else's life. It was actually the book of her life. And as she got to the end of that book, she realized that she was saddened because she didn't like the pages that were enclosed in the book. She was saddened because what the book was telling her that she was not confident, that she had built up this image in her head that she was a person that was worthless, that wasn't smart enough, that wasn't good enough, that wasn't worthy enough, that wasn't deserving enough of her dreams. And as she got to the end of that chapter, she fell apart because she said, I can't do it no more. I can't continue living like this. And I don't know if you've ever been in a situation like this, but for me, when I was younger, going through racism, bullying, going through hell, I woke up every day and said, God, why are you putting me through this? My self-image was that of a peasant. I felt horrible about who I was. And as a result, that determined what I got out of life. So let's dive right in. What the heck, right? Number one, before we even get to what the heck self-image really is, let me give you a brief definition of it, right? Once again, it comes from Maxwell Maltz's book, The Magic Power of Self-Image Psychology, which was released in, I think, 1962, but man, does it speak volumes now. So he defines the self-image as, or you can call it the story that you're telling yourself about who you are, synonymous. So Maxwell Maltz says that the self-image is your conception of the sort of person you are. So once again, when you're in that movie theater in your mind and the screen starts to play your life, do you like the conception that you see on the screen? Do you like what you see? Is it telling you that you're confident, that you are a winner, that you are somebody that is mentally tough, that can overcome obstacles? Or do you see something playing back to you on the screen that is saying you're not worthwhile? You will never be good enough. You will never be smart enough. You will never be pretty enough. And the reality is that a lot of us live in the state of not being good enough. But I want to talk to you a little bit about how do we even come to define our self-image in the moment? How do we even come to tell ourselves a story about who we are right now? And the truth of the matter is that most times, most people define who they are in the present by adding up all of their experiences in the past. Now stick with me here for a minute. Your self-image in the moment, if you allow it to be this way, which most of us do because I've been there so I can attest, is that it's a product of our past experience, successes, failures, humiliations, traumas, triumphs, tribulations, the things when we had those interactions with people and it rubbed us the wrong way, where we failed at the things that we failed at, when we succeeded at the things that we succeeded at, when our parents told us in the second grade that we were not smart enough because we failed that math test, everything, when that teacher told me in second grade that I had to go get tested for ADD because I couldn't keep shut. All of those experiences can come to define us in the present moment if we allow them to. And the issue that a lot of us run into is that a lot of us believe that the past is who we have to be in the present, and that's who we have to be in the future. But the point is that we don't have to keep running away from who we used to be. We can start running towards the person that we want to become in the future. But the first step in doing that is to understand how we define ourselves in the present. You and I, once we take these past experiences and we take them to be true, they become our truths, but they're not the truth. I want to reiterate that one time. Once we take something to become our truth, it becomes that, our truth. But that doesn't mean that is objectively the truth. To further illustrate this point, let me tell you what I mean. When I drive, I wear glasses because my eyes aren't the best when it comes to seeing far. But when I put on these glasses, oh boy, let me tell you, that road looks really clear. I could see the dashes on the road. I could see the stop sign from a half a mile away. I could see the green light from a quarter mile away. I mean, the road just looks beautiful. But the moment that I take somebody else's glasses and I put them on, I see a road that looks completely different. The dashes might look a little different. The stop sign might look a little blurry. It might look a little better. The stoplight might look a little clearer. It might look a little worse. The Walmart down the road, I might not be able to see it. Maybe I will, who knows? But the point that I want to share with you here is the fact that whatever trials, tribulations you have gone through in the past, if you are allowing them to define you in the present in a negative sense, you have to simply put on a different pair of glasses. What I mean by this is that we can simply shift the way we look at things by changing our perspective. Wayne Dyer once said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Now I'm going to say that again because I don't know if you caught the power in those words. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And boy, is that powerful, because what we do is, with all of these past experiences, we build a picture of ourselves that we take to be true. We act as if it is true. But that truth is so subjective, and you have the ability to overcome that belief, that picture, that movie screen that you do not like. You have the ability to change it, because you can change the way you look at things, and when you do that, the things you look at change. Wow, Wayne Dyer's talking to me right now. He passed away in 2015, but I just heard this quote a couple of days ago, and isn't that so impactful? When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So if you don't take anything else away from that in this video, take that with you, because that is so powerful. So once again, when we take all of these past experiences and we allow them to become our truth, they do that. They become our truth. They become our principle. They become who we are. I ask somebody who you are, they respond with their name. I don't want to know your name. I want you to tell me who you are. Who are you? And unfortunately, so many of us come to the conclusion that I'm a failure, that I'm not good enough because of the past. But also think back to your childhood. Because one's childhood is when a person is most impressionable. I don't know about you, but for me in childhood, I thought I was a failure. I thought I was no good, because that's what my environment was constantly perpetuating to me. And as a result, that became my reality because I allowed it to. And what I'm telling you is that you have to look back to your childhood. The picture that you're telling yourself about who you are right now oftentimes is a culmination of all the past experiences, not only from the past few years, but from when you were a child, because this is when you have no control really over your circumstances, and it's just given to you. Your environment is given to you, and people tell you things, and you don't understand the types of conversations we are having right now. Therefore, you just accept as true what other people give you. And as time goes on, you start to build on that, and it becomes more true, more true, more true, and more true, until it becomes your truth. And then we come to a position now, and this is a key point, when something becomes our truth, we start to justify it with evidence. I'm a failure. In the second grade, I failed the test. I am not worth a good mate. I am not worth a good boyfriend or a good girlfriend, because I've ruined dozens of relationships in the past. I'll never be a good athlete. I got cut from my freshman team. I will never be a good husband. I had 3 divorces. I will never be wealthy. I went bankrupt 2 times. I will never be a good parent. I could barely afford to take care of myself. Now, do you see what I just did there? I just took evidence to support my belief. And that is the thing about self-image. Your self-image does something to your mind, because your mind has the innate desire to remain consistent with who you believe that you are. Therefore, if your self-image, or the story that you tell yourself about who you are, is one of, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not worthy enough, I can never do what they do, they're just naturally smart, you are going to start to look for evidence to support that, and then your truth is just going to become so much more ingrained in you. It's just going to become a fortress in your mind that instead of defending you is going to ruin you. Because when you come to believe that you are not good enough, not beautiful enough, that everybody else can do it but you, you're just going to look for ways to reinforce that pattern of thinking. But it's not your fault, because this is something that happens subconsciously, and I'm just here to tell you about it so that maybe we could bring it to our conscious forefront. Because if we can understand this, we can change our reality. The thing I want to impress upon you is that the truth for you is subjective. You choose the truth. And in oftentimes when we think about our past and the things that we've gone through, we can look at it one of two ways. We can allow it to disempower us, or we can allow it to empower us. Let me give you an example. Well, in the past, I haven't done well at this, and this. Sometimes we might ask ourselves, man, why can't I ever do this? Why am I not good enough? Instead, you can shift to a different state and ask yourself, how can I do that? And how can I improve on my capabilities so that I can learn and eventually get to where I want to go? Fundamentally, a huge shift that will change your life. So when we talk about the image of the self-image, it determines your life. Because the image that you perpetuate will determine every action and emotion that you have. Because the actions and emotions that you have are simply a reciprocation of the picture that you have in your mind. And to illustrate this, I want to share with you a quick story. So there was once a farmer a few years back who wanted to try an experiment. Now this farmer was in particular, it was very, very, very lucky. Now the farmer had great soil. The farmer had beautiful land. And what the farmer said was that I got all the things that I need. I got a beautiful property, I got beautiful soil, and I got beautiful land. Luckily, it rains all the time too. So I want to try an experiment. So she has nitrate in one hand, which is a deadly chemical poison, right? It's deadly. And in the other hand, she has asparagus. She has corn, let's say. Now, corn is something that when you eat it, it's good for you. It produces nothing but good benefits. In the other hand, she had nitrate, a deadly poison. And what she said, I want to plant both, and I want to take care of both, and I want to see which one grows. I want to see which one produces what I want to produce. So she goes ahead, she plants both of them in the soil, she fertilizes them, she waters them, makes sure that it gets the adequate amount of sunlight. She does everything to ensure that these crops grow exactly as she wanted. And what she noticed was that in a few months, the corn had sprouted up and she was happy. And then she looks over at the nitrate, which was right next to the corn, and she notices that the nitrate grew in just as much abundance as the corn. And she said, wow, the deadly chemical can grow just as quickly as the healthy fruit. Now, I want you to take that analogy and I want that to apply that to your life. What this means for us is the fact that if we consistently plant these negative seeds in our life, we will continue to produce the negative results and outcomes that we so desperately hate and want to get rid of. Because it all goes back to the story that we're telling ourselves about who we are. And each time we reinforce that story with a negative seed, we give it that nitrate, we give it that negative belief, it's just going to continue to produce the negative result. Because once again, I'm trying to really impress this upon you that your mind acts consistent with who you believe you are. It's called the confirmation bias. If you do not believe me, please, I dare you, please go and look it up, the confirmation bias. You know, I'm going to put on my conservative hat for a minute, and then I'll put on my liberal hat. So if I'm a conservative, I watch Fox News because that is what I believe to be true. And I will never dare to put on CNN because that goes against my opinion, that goes against my grain, that goes against everything that I believe. Well, now I'm on the left side of the spectrum and I only watch MSNBC, CNN, and some of these other stations, and I hate Fox News because CNN is what is right, because that is my truth, that is what I live, breathe, and know, that is what is ingrained in me, and Fox News does nothing but perpetuate lies and is horrible. You see what I did there? I simply confirmed what my truth was. And in a similar way, aside from politics, we do the same thing with our beliefs. We look only for the things that confirm what we think is true about ourselves. So I implore you, after you're done with this, or while you're sitting here watching this or listening to this right now, start to ask yourself, how am I reinforcing my perceived truths? Because those truths might not be the truth at all. Your self-image determines your life. But yet, it's a shame because we don't hear about this in school, do we? Nope. We don't hear about this in conversations with our friends, do we? Nope. Matter of fact, we don't hear about this anywhere in society. Because the thing is that to change the self-image, it's a process. But unfortunately, we live in a world where let's do it right now, let's get it right now. Instant gratification is the world that we live in today, but real change can't be done in a minute. Real change can only be done in a lifetime. So as you join me and we further discuss the self-image, I implore you, stick with me because it's a process. Hey, if you're looking for the quick fix, if you're looking for me to give you a secret formula to improve your life, you can just cancel this video, shut it off right now, because this isn't the place for you. Because real change is hard. Les Brown once said, "Life does not give us what we want, life gives us what we are." And in order to produce a new result in our life, we have to produce a new being first. That's just the truth. Goethe, the great German philosopher, said, before you do something, you first have to be something. And that's what we do when we talk about self-image. Who are you being? Because who you're being is determining what you're getting. So when we think about self-image, we have to create a new being. And I mentioned the importance, I mentioned the definition, I tell you the analogies. Why? Because before we go into starting to change the self-image, we have to simply understand what it is in the first place. Like I said at the beginning of the video, if you build a house on a wobbly foundation, it's just a matter of time before it falls over. And in a similar way, if you build a weak foundation in your life, it's just a matter of time before the leaks in the roof seep down to the foundation and it causes a flood that ruins your life. You don't have to be the person sitting in the movie theater thinking, I hate the movie that's playing in front of me. I hate my life. Simply. I was there. I said that for many years of my life. I hate myself. You know, and it kind of hurts to say now, you know, but that's how I felt. But it doesn't have to be that way. The thing I want to mention to you is that the self-image has nothing to do with external success. It has nothing to do with material gain. And the best way that I can explain this to you, and it really saddens me, look at movie stars, look at artists, look at people who have everything that one can want externally, but yet due to some internal void go as far as taking their own lives. Go as far as to becoming addicted to substances. And it's because they try to fill an internal void with an external pleasure. Wayne Dyer, I'm going back to him once again, he tells a great analogy of a man who lost his keys. And what happened was the man had no power in his house and he dropped his keys. And 10 minutes went by and he didn't notice that he dropped them. So then finally he goes to leave his house and lock his door and he notices that he dropped his keys. So it's, oh my goodness. Now I got to sit here and find my keys. So he goes crazy in his apartment looking for his keys. It's dark. He can't see nothing. He has no flashlight. So he goes, you know what? there's a street lamp outside that provides a little light. So let me go look out there for my keys. So he's looking under the cars. He's looking under everything. He's checking the sidewalk. He's checking the grass. And a neighbor comes by and says, "Hey, Devin, what are you doing?" He says, "Hey, I'm looking for my keys. Can you help me find them?" So the neighbor says, "Yeah, sure." So he starts looking under the cars. He starts looking onto the sidewalk. He starts looking by the fire hydrant. Finally, he turns and says, "Devin, where did you drop your keys?" And he says, "Well, I dropped them inside." And the neighbor turns to him and says, "Then why the hell are you out here looking for your keys?" And in a similar way, what we do as human beings is that we try to look for the answers to our internal problems out there on the street instead of looking in our own house, just like that analogy said. But what I need you to understand is that aside from material gain, aside from financial gain, there's more to you than what's on the surface. No one can define you by your results. No one can define you by what you get in life. People can only define you by how you treat other people and the virtues, values, and principles that you live by. Folks, a month ago I failed Army Ranger School. I failed. But that does not mean that I am a failure, because no one can give me and no one can take away from me my values, virtues, and principles. So I think it's so important to separate our results from who we are, because who we are is so much deeper than what we get or what we have. It's who we are in our heart, not what we hold in our hands. So as we go forward, just keep that in mind, because material gain in our society is perpetuated as this end-all be-all thing that will make you happy. Epictetus, the great Stoic philosopher, once said, "If a little is not enough, then nothing will ever be." And boy, isn't that so true. In fact, what do? Instead of putting a value on things in society that are actually important, we come to value these things of material success. There's another quote out there also by Seneca, a Stoic philosopher, says that people are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are so wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy. Isn't that true? We think that gaining things will come and allow ourselves to define us on a grander scale and make us feel even better about who we are. But when it comes to the utilization of time and the thing that is actually important, we're so quick to waste it, aren't we? 86,400 seconds in a day. So many of them are wasted. Chasing something and trying to find the keys in our house out there, only to come and find out that we can't find them. So as we talk about self-image, I implore you, separate it completely from material gain, financial success, because that's not you. You are much deeper than what anybody else sees on the surface. You and I both know that to be true. Oh boy, I got some good news. You can change. And that's the whole reason for this series. Who you are right now is not always who you have to be. Who you are right now is not nearly a preview of who you could be in the future. You have the ability, just like the person who watched the movie screen, you're not only the spectator in your movie, you are the director, you are the actor, you are the screenwriter, you are the entire cast. And that is why this is titled The Power of the Story Within You. Because just like the woman who read a story that was anonymous, but yet it was her life, you don't have to end up like that where you're reading a story deeply saddened and you didn't even know you wrote it. You can deliberately take the pen and write the story that you want to. Why? Because you can. Because you are still here to do so. Greatest word in American language is responsibility. Break that down, put it into 2 words, responsibility. I have the ability to respond to any situation and create the future that I want, but I get it, Devin, my circumstances don't allow that. George Bernard Shaw once said, most people blame circumstance for where they are. I don't believe in circumstance. The people who get on in this world are the ones that get up and look for the circumstances they want. And if they cannot find them, they create them. So we're going on a journey now within these next couple of episodes to learn about how we can even go about creating the circumstances that we want for ourselves, how we can build that powerful self-image that says, I am a success, I am beautiful, I can do anything, there is nothing I cannot do. It's a process. And I'm not sitting here telling you I have all the answers, because I don't. I'm just simply sharing with you my experiences, my knowledge that I've gained through reading, and I dare you, follow me on this journey, because once I discovered myself, I realized that I have endless possibilities in life, and there is nothing that I cannot do. The power of you lies within you. But it starts with that mental picture. It starts with that video that you see play on the movie screen. So guys, I thank you so much for being here with me today. And now we're going to really start diving into, in the next episode, a little bit about the story and how we can revise it, how we can tweak it to make it more advantageous for you. Because once you change the story, you change your life. Thanks for having me, guys. Thanks for sticking with me and joining me in this episode, because I tremendously appreciate it with all of my heart. We'll catch you back on the next episode of the One Life Podcast.